Recent studies have linked Roundup to significant increases in non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. That's a cancer that can be devastating to you and the people you love. If you or a loved one are exposed to Roundup and then develop non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, you may be entitled to financial compensation.
Prosecutors across the country, all around the country, are not all tracking police officer misconduct. And that may seem like a small thing, but it actually can lead to wrongful convictions. Let me explain. USA Today spent a year investigating this, and they found that widespread failure by police departments and prosecutors to track problem officers actually makes it impossible to disclose that information to people whose freedom hinges on the integrity of law enforcement. And let me break down exactly what they were able to find out over this year. Thousands of people have faced criminal charges or gone to prison based in part on testimony from law enforcement officers deemed to have credibility problems by their bosses or by prosecutors. So essentially, like, this police officer has been found or accused of misconduct, lying, and now we have them testifying, and we are basing this case on this officer's ability to tell the truth. Also, they found at least 300 prosecutors' offices across the nation are not taking steps necessary to comply with the Supreme Court mandate. So these places do not have a list tracking dishonest or otherwise untrustworthy officers. They include big cities such as Chicago, Little Rock, and then smaller communities like Jackson County, Minnesota, and Columbia County, Pennsylvania.
So look, this is a giant problem, and they USA Today actually did a great story on it, and they highlighted one particular case of Revat Vara, and so here's a guy who got pulled over by Officer William Lindsey, and back in 2006 in Houston, and he has him do a sobriety test. He passes because it turns out he didn't drink anything. The officer says, I think you did, and so he makes up that he was drunk. And as it turns out, Vara had 2 previous DWIs, which the cop might have known when he checked his computer. So he's got to get his numbers up. So he thinks, I'll just arrest this guy and I'll make up that he's drunk.
And he gets overtime if he says he's a witness in court too. So
yes.
He used to do that.
Yeah, so that's an important part of the story. First, I want you to know how much time Vara got.
It's wild.
25 years. Oh. He got 25 years on a totally false charge. It turns out.
Just contrast that for 1 second with Amber Geiger getting 10 years, just to understand the severity of our criminal justice system, our 2-tier criminal justice system.
That's a great point. So it turns out Lindsey is serial liar. Let's put it that way.
Very well known liar.
Yes, he has had 35 different instances where his own police department said that he had done misconduct, including manipulating DWI arrests, and partly so that he could testify and get overtime, as Hasan alluded to. So in order to make more money, just a little bit more money, he throws away 25 years of people's lives at a time, okay? So now, according to our Supreme Court decisions, the defense must have access to any information that is exculpatory. So, hey, if there's something that the prosecutor knows, the defense should also know it if it might help the defense. Now, that's a very well established law in America. The Supreme Court ruled that in 1963. It is super clear. Yet, prosecutors' office all across the country, that's what the point of this story is and what Brooke explained to you in the beginning, go, man, I don't think so. We're just gonna keep it from you. We're going to either not bother finding out which cops have systematically lied and done misconduct, or, by the way, been discriminatory against certain minorities. Or if we do find out, we're not gonna tell you unless you ask, and you ask in exactly the right legal way, and we're gonna fight you tooth and nail, even though that is not the law. The law is they must tell them, okay? And sometimes they're asked, and they still don't tell them. And so that's why you have these thousands upon thousands of cases of abuse. And now, guys, but I'll go further. There's something deeply wrong here, and it goes to the 2-tier justice system that Hasan alluded to. We have this reverence for police officers and this system and prosecutors, like somehow they're more honest than the average person. So now I'm gonna tell you something controversial, which a lot of mainstream media would find unbelievably controversial.
Are you about to say ACAB, Cenk?
No, wait, I'm sure that you'll go over the top on me, Hus, but
the police are class traitors?
No, yeah, see, there you go. Okay, but no, I think that if I'm on a jury, I would find the police far less trustworthy than an average citizen. I mean, I mean, what kind of world do we live in? Are we still in the
facts,
1950s?
sure,
You know, where people are, oh, cops, boy, the cop would never lie. What planet do you live on? Right. I think, like, look, is it every cop? Of course not. But if you think it's just a few bad apples, you're on a completely different planet. No, cops lie all the time, systematically. They're encouraged to lie. They're encouraged to lie by prosecutors. They're encouraged to lie by the entire system. So, I mean, these juries that find the cops more credible than the defendants, I find them ridiculous, outrageous. It's not to say that the defendants are
manufactured
angels.
though. It's like it's social conditioning to feel like we must always venerate our police officers. They are our troops here, like our troops overseas. But I mean, look, here's the greatest example that police are like above the law, right? Aside from the fact that their unions are the only powerful unions left in this country, shocker. But you know, domestic abusers are not supposed to carry weapons, right? In this country, there's plenty of laws around this. 40% of cops beat their wives, like, or husbands. So 40% of the police force should not even have a weapon. There, I said it. They're above the law at every step of the way.
There's another number here because we talking about. Let's take a look at prosecutorial departments that do compile these lists. And in Baltimore, Marilyn Mosby, the state's attorney there, her office started reviewing cases involving officers who had misconduct charges against them. That reviewing process, and it's not even finished, but so far, they have asked the courts to vacate nearly 800 convictions that involve testimony or investigation by these officers. 800 convictions. Not only that, they've put together a list of automatic notifications. If this officer comes up and is a witness, automatically we have to let the defense know. There are 530 officers on that list.
So look, I think we do our best to try to be as objective as we can about different situations. So normally we support unions overall, big picture, because they empower workers, et cetera. But there is one union in this country that is ridiculously powerful and almost always fights for injustice rather than justice, and that's the police union. So in Philadelphia,
that's why they're class traitors, Cenk, because they're the union that protects literally the union busters. They are the ones who have historically broke picket lines and protected scabs and always serve the interests of capital rather than the interests of the American people, specifically the American working class. That's why they're the ones who beat protesters and rioters. Yeah, that's why they're class traitors.
So you know, whether you agree or disagree with the verbiage that Hasan's using about class traitors, the facts that he gave are indisputable. And so I brought up the unions in this case to just give you one last example. In Philadelphia, the police union said that the prosecutors maintaining a Brady list, which is a list of cops that have had misconduct, lies, been convicted of crimes, et cetera, to let the defendants know, as they are supposed to, mandated by law. They say it's a witch hunt. And they say, how dare you do this to the cops? So their thesis, their argument is, cops should be allowed to lie, should be allowed to be racist, should be allowed to be convicted of crimes, and a defendant should not be allowed to know that. That is insane. So look, if you're a right winger, let me do it in language you can understand. Imagine if they arrested you for having a gun when you had every right to have a gun, and it was a black police officer. And then it turns out that black police officer had been lying all the time and had 30 different times that he was on the record as lying, and the cops knew it and the prosecutors knew it, but they let him lie in your case and you got 10 years in jail. How outraged would you be? Like, that's crazy, I can't believe you let him lie and you knew that he was a serial liar, right? I gave you that crazy extreme example, so maybe, just maybe I could break through to right wingers. Our system of justice is supposed to be fair to the defendants as well, no matter what their political leaning is, no matter what their race is, et cetera. We're supposed to protect the civilians, but we don't. Instead, we empower the already powerful, the elite, and the cops are, yes, they're oftentimes, far too often, not every time, but far too often, their police force and not all of our police force. And that's why they allow these cops to lie, even though in our system of government, they are not supposed to do that at all. And you're supposed to know it. Thanks for watching The Young Turks, really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.